Well, hello there. It's the 8th of July 2020 and here you are with Dan in Essex, UK. So many of you may be aware that over the last few years I've been working on a partial self-sufficiency project here, and a part of this is a polytunnel. In fact, I have two. So the one behind me is 6 metres by 3 metres by about 7 foot high, something like that. So 6 metres long, 3 metres wide and probably about 7 foot high, something like that. We'll go in and have a look in a moment. So I've got two polytunnels. So I put this up in May and I'll link the video down below so you can see about how I went about putting it up. So I thought today I'd give you an update on what's going on in there, and we can talk a little bit about polytunnels and how they can help you on your quest for self-sufficiency or partial self-sufficiency if you wish to achieve that. So there we go. Now I'll just show you. So one thing I do recommend when people are putting up polytunnels, etc., is to go for one with a hinged door. Okay, so if you think about if this was a zipped door, you get the idea like that. You've got to think what it would be like. So of course, zips flapping around, you keep doing them up, undoing them, blah de blah, you get the idea. Zips quite often break on coats, etc. I think this is quite durable. So this works on like hinges or latches this side, and you can see how the hinges work just like that. So you get the idea, and it just sort of fits on there like that, and you can close it and you can really come and go as you please. Close the door, away you go. You can leave it open to let pollinating insects in, and of course to so it doesn't get too hot. Right, so I've got all sorts of things going on in here. Many of you may be aware that I had loads of potatoes growing in containers in here. Well, I've moved them out, put them into an alternative location. I've got my first early potatoes in here still, and some salad potatoes as well, but just a few. And I've got some sweet corn set here. Now it's a bit late really for sweet corn to only be at this sort of relatively small stage, but I'm hoping we'll get some more warm weather and that will proceed to let them grow a little bit more, the catalyst of the heat, and of course it should extend the growing season having them here in the polytunnel. And of course you can see blueberries here. Now blueberries can grow perfectly well okay outside in the UK climate, but I've got them in here simply because it's a much easier way of keeping the birds off of the berries, because these have set a very good crop this year. I put a lot of care into them, making sure they get all the nutrients they need in the correct growing medium, the correct pH of between 4.5 to 5.5 ericaceous pH, because this is what blueberries require, so I don't want to lose my crop with all of that effort. The plants are very healthy, they put out a lot of good growth, so basically you can tell I'm very, very happy with my blueberries. So a polytunnel can act as a great way to protect your plants from things such as birds. So of course if you look at most commercial fruit farms now, you'll see that they grow the majority of their strawberries in a polytunnel, or cherries as well, whatever, because it can keep the rain off, it can stop birds from damage, and particularly cherries. You know how cherries can be, the crop can be easily decimated by birds. So a polytunnel is just a really, really great thing. And of course one can come out here, and I could, although it's raining outside, I could come out here no problem and I could do some work, couldn't I? Okay, so this is an added addition, alright, to many polytunnels. So if I show you along here, you can see it just carries on. We've got about, like I said, we've got 6 metres of polytunnel here, and the water, when it rains, it falls down the polytunnel and it drips into like this guttering system, if you want to call it that. And what I do is I have a bucket there like that, and when it gets to an overspill, the water simply proceeds to tip into the bucket. So just help it on a little bit by tipping it like that, look, and you'd be surprised when it rains hard, a bucket like this gets filled up really, really quick. So that's a great thing about certain designs of polytunnel. So you can see the polytunnel from behind. In here I've got my runner beans, which are covered in black fly, but there we go, that's how things are. So yeah, this is the backside of the polytunnel. So I was asked a question the other day, which is a very interesting question, with regards to using green mesh polytunnels and it letting light in for plants. Well, I can only speak from my own experience, and I have only ever had polytunnels with this green mesh. You know, you can see it. I like to refer to it as, well, I refer to it as reinforcing, you know, whatever these little cotton things are, little sewn squares. But I've certainly not had a problem with crops ripening in a polytunnel with green mesh. For instance, you've seen my peach crops on some of in my other polytunnel. That doesn't get as much sun for as much of the day as this polytunnel, and then peaches were very, very sweet. Okay, you know that I've grown watermelons in the past in a mesh green polytunnel, no problem there. And you can see the blueberries are ripening, you've seen those. And down here you can see it's a chili. This is variety Onavec. So they start off green like this, and there's absolutely no problem with that ripening to this red colour here. So I'm very, very grateful for those. So down here you can see I've got this banana plant. This is variety Dwarf Cavendish, okay? And I've got it in this pot, and you can see that it's putting up pups here. So if I want to, I can take some of these away, and I should be able to get pups of Dwarf Cavendish bananas, which is great. That's one of my aims, to produce edible bananas here in the UK. Now, got an aubergine here growing away, happy as Larry. Now this is my melon project, okay? Down here, I've been asked for updates on this. Now really what I should be doing is hand pollinating these, okay? Even though I am leaving the door open on warm days to allow pollinating insects in, I should be hand pollinating them, but I'm deciding not to do that due to time budgeting, okay? That's just one of those things. So, above all, the most important thing, okay, when you are putting up a polytunnel, considering where you're going to put it, whatever, this is also important, but the most important thing is that you secure it properly, okay? Because very easily these can blow away, and it can be expensive, damaging, and downright dangerous, okay? You end up with a polytunnel stuck somewhere very awkward, so be very, very careful. So I'll show you briefly the way that I've got it secured. Best bet will be to check out the video if you want a comprehensive instruction how I did it. So you can see that around the entire polytunnel frame I've got a course of bricks. Now you could use block pavers, you could use breeze blocks, you could use concrete blocks, Celcom blocks, you probably could even use rocks, you know, if you could get them sort of levelish, you know. These bricks here are just fine, and then you can see over them I have a 2x4 piece of wood in a frame, okay, that goes all the way around. So I'll show you down here. Now what I've got, right, is in each corner, you can just see down there, look, I'll just point to it there. You can see I've got some big old posts in the ground, okay? Now they're concreted in. I didn't mix up sand and cement or anything. I just bought ready-made bags of post mix, post fix, post crete. They're all the different names. I just used that and put them in, okay? And then what I've done is actually secured the 2x4 frame to that using wood, okay? And then as you go around here, you can see I've secured the polytunnel frame. See the galvanized frame here, you get the idea of the actual polytunnel, this one, and I've then put these bits of wood over with a screw through that round piece, really fixing it down. Got to be fixed, okay? And you can see there I've got another post there, look, that's just knocked in, it's not concreted in, and then screwed through again to keep it down thoroughly. So another recommendation I'd make with regards to polytunnels is to get one with a galvanized frame, okay? That way it shouldn't rust, okay? Bits of it might if, you know, over time the sort of what's it falls off of it, but in general you don't want to be getting a polytunnel that can rust, okay? The way that I look at it is it's quite an investment anyway. I can't remember the exact price of this polytunnel, but probably, you know, including all of the wood and everything, it was probably It's over 400 quid to get this up, okay? And that was, as you know, obviously I had to take some time off work to put it up as well, you know. At the end of the day, the majority of you are aware that I'm just basically a sort of, you know, the modern day equivalent of a working class man, okay? So, you know, I had to take a day off work, so it's got a cost, I think 2 or 3 days, I can't remember now, but there is a cost involved, both in products and time. So you want to make sure that, materials and time, so you want to make sure that you know, you really get it right when you put one of these up, because it could be here for quite a few years, okay? So regarding extending seasons, etc., it's very good with regards to things like this my new fig tree, Madeleine de Saison, which I'm very, very excited about. And this is a variety that can produce 2 crops, okay, even in a climate such as the UK, which is more likely in a polytunnel. So there we go. Now, with regards to strawberries, okay, if strawberries get too wet, they can end up getting a condition called mildew, okay? So of course if you're growing them in a polytunnel, yes, granted the crop's finished now, so it's not a good time of year for me to give the example, but you can tell it's raining, it's actually going to keep the moisture off of them, so you're more likely to get a good crop, okay? Okay, so I really could go on for a lot longer talking about the merits of a polytunnel, but the main thing is, you know, you can extend the growing season either end, okay? So for instance, what I'm going to do, I didn't show you these, I've got some kale down here, okay, and what I'm going to be doing is, as these strawberries I'll be taking them outside, and all along here I'm going to be having kale. When these are finished here, these sweet corns, I'll probably have some chard or some spinach in there, you know, maybe even some cabbages or whatever, kale, you know, to be able to be partially self-sufficient over the winter period, and a polytunnel can help you with that. Okay, there we go. If you like my work, please feel free to like, share and subscribe. Any comments, questions or whatevers, please feel free to post below. And as always, see you in the next video. Thank you for viewing.